Thank you for coming back to the It's Beyond Me podcast. It's your girl Drift Nasty. Freddie T is not going to be with me today. He's at work. Today I want to discuss a kind of different topic than what we usually have been covering, but these are things that, I'm into and have been into for a long time. Like, the point of our channel is to discuss things that like blow our mind, things that are beyond us. So it fits in. Trust me. I think I'm going to start out with talking about the firmament. I'm sure a lot of people out there know what it is, but for some who don't, the firmament is referring to, if you're a religious person and you've read the Bible, then you would know that it was saying that it's basically something that's between the waters above and the waters below. Okay, we're supposed to be under that firmament or the veil, whatever it is that you want to call it. We're supposed to be underneath this. Now, some of you are going to get it, but some won't. And that's okay. That's just always how it's been. But just based off of the definition of what the firmament is, there's water above and water below. There's pictures and images in regard to the firmament and the way that the earth, or our world, I guess I should say, because earth is really just relating to the dirt here, but how our world looks. In these pictures, you could clearly see that there's different bodies of water. There's also a part in the Bible that speaks about how the floodgates opened in the sky and water came down and flooded the earth. That was, the idea of the major flood back in the day. Honestly, I'm not a super religious person. I grew up as a kid in the Baptist church. My uncle was a preacher. It was just a family church. As time went on, I wasn't so religious just because of the fact of I don't 100% feel comfortable putting my beliefs into books that changed depending on who's in power at the time. Different kings got different versions. Things were taken out and some things were kept. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in that, for so to say. So I stopped being religious so much. Not saying that I don't believe in God. Yeah, I do believe in God. I do believe that there's things that are, beyond our world. Obviously, we have a creator. That's what I like to call him. Yeah, we have a creator. There's no way of denying it when you take into consideration that everything is pretty much put together like a computer. If you have a computer and you realize if you take one thing out, that it changes the whole thing of the computer, whether we're talking about the body, the ecosystem, whatever it is, everything is here for a reason and a purpose. If you take a piece out, then you change the computer, right? Our world is what I'm referring to. And I don't feel like, that's something that came from a rock going bang in space, whatever. Because for me anyway, being the curious person, is that everything had to come from something, right? So where did the rock come from? There has to be a point A. Whatever point A is, that's what God is, right? I believe that there's different firmaments, right? Yeah, there's the big one that's separating us from the water that's above us. but I believe that there is also firmaments underwater. There was a scientist who went down there with his crew, and he discovered an underwater lake. And this lake that was under there was surrounded by mussels, right? There was like a big ring, and in the middle of the ring was a black body of water. A lake is what he described it as. Well, then come to find out that the ring of mussels that were around it, the mussels and everything are dead. Whatever's in that specific body of water that is inside of the ocean, if you hear what I'm saying, is toxic, and it's too thick for our machines to go through.
One of the strangest places on the ocean's floor was only just discovered in the 1990s. I might agree it's one of a handful of people to ever see it in person.
Without a doubt, one of the most amazing things that I had ever seen in the bottom of the ocean, and it was while filming for Blue Planet, it was in the Gulf of Mexico. And I noticed there's something out in the distance, couldn't tell exactly what, but it looked like a dark band. And as we approached it, the dark band became a donut. I saw this donut that was black in the center. What the heck is that? And so as we get closer and closer to it, I noticed that the black band had what appeared to be kind of steam over it. And then I looked, and there was water lapping against the shoreline. This band was a ring of mussels. And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater. We went out over the water in this lake and tried to descend in it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down in it. We literally bounced off, and as we bounced off, we sent ripples heading back to the shoreline. It was insane. I've never seen anything like it.
He says every time that he tried to go in there, he couldn't go in there. However, the same idea kind of pertains to the firmament above, because I personally believe we haven't left out of it. And if we haven't left out of it, that doesn't necessarily mean that other things can't leave out or come in. We just can't. With our technology and stuff like that, I don't believe that we have. For the firmament, when you think about it, science also proves it, not meaning to, but I mean it does. When you're talking about the different, like the ozone layer and all of this, all these layers of gases, vapors, whatever you want to call it, that is what makes the firmament a firmament. Some people call it glass. They relate it to being glass, and others describe it as gas. Either way, it's just a really dense area that lines something to keep something else separate, just like the lake at the bottom of the ocean. There's some lakes that are up on, like, visible on land. There's also the lake Natron in Africa.
There have been a lot of media reports this week about a lake in Africa that instantly turns animals into stone, but that is a misnomer. But let's look at the pictures that they are talking about. These were taken by photographer Nick Brandt, depicting petrified animals kind of still in life in Lake Natron in Tanzania. They're more like mummified than calcified. There has been runoff in the water from the nearby Great Rift Valley volcano. It has a very high alkalinity, a pH level of between 9 and 10.5. Some animals are not immune to it, and they'll have their skin burned and their eyes burned if they come into contact with the water. But other animals are okay with it. For instance, lesser flamingos live in that body of water, and they're fine. They eat the algae, they eat the small little fish that also live in there. So it's certain animals that can't handle the alkalinity.
This lake, as you can see, turns things into stone. Some people say mummifies them, but it's another, I believe it's another form of a firmament. Like, some things are meant to be able to go in and some things are not. The lake that's in the bottom of the ocean, how you could see how even though him and the machine couldn't go through it, you have the little eel or whatever it is, it can go in and out with no problems. It doesn't die, it doesn't get pushed back. It's really neat, and it shows the diversity in our world, right? It shows that, you know, anything is possible. I personally don't say, oh, well, nothing is possible whatsoever, because literally anything is possible in this life. I think that the firmament takes us to Antarctica, and in the Arctic. We'll just call it the Arctic Circle, because I know a lot of y'all be like, oh, well, the Earth's not flat. I personally believe that it is somewhat flat, right? Like the surface that we're roaming on is flat. And if that would be true, then I believe that, you know, the ice wall and everything, that's the end of our biosphere, our world, our firmament.
And then this is the Lena River. So the pillars go this way and also down this way. Like I said though, super cold. Congratulations, you made it.
Yeah, we can do it. Why we do it?
Shivam, are you okay?
Yeah. You can just jump from here.
Yeah, why not? What could go wrong? You can see these massive karsts.
There's a lot of wonders and mysteries and things behind Antarctica. Not that our government doesn't know about it, but we don't, at the very least. You can go to Antarctica or the Arctic, whatever it is. They're saying Antarctica is South Pole, Arctic is North Pole, but I believe that it would all be connected. And you can travel there, but there's a lot of areas that are just off limits. We're not allowed to travel in. We're told that it's completely frozen. It's nothing but a frozen abyss. But then you have to ask yourself, then what is so interesting that not everybody, but a lot of countries have a piece of territory there, while we're not allowed to go. They're finding things like pyramids. There's a volcano under the ice. There's a volcano that spews out crystal and gold, as well as lava. So it is something warm. There's water and things under the ice, and they say that it's because they get the warmth from that volcano.
Researchers find a secret warm oasis beneath Antarctica's ice that could be home to undiscovered species. A study of the subglacial caves might reveal undiscovered animal or plant species living comfortably due to the heat of an active volcano. Although average year-long temperatures on Ross Island hover around -17°C, including 6 months between April and September where they do not rise above -20°C, the temperature in cave systems beneath the glaciers can reach 25°C. Located around and beneath Mount Erebus, an active volcano, the caves have been hollowed out after years of steam travelling through their passages. Fraser revealed that it contained traces of DNA from algae, mosses, and even small animals that could be living in the underground oasis. Most of the DNA, Fraser admits, is like that of species living on the surface. However, not all the sequences studied could be linked to a particular animal or plant group, meaning Fraser may be on the cusp of discovering new life forms as well.
It's nothing but ice, and oh, did we mention ice? But if we rewind the clock back to 71 million years ago, life was flourishing. There was no polar ice caps, it was far warmer than it is now, and Antarctica was reminiscent of a prehistoric Jurassic Park, with dinosaurs strolling around alongside a range of other animals. These bones, now considered fossils, were analyzed and declared to be anywhere between 71 and 67 million years old. Most of them were related to ancient duck-like creatures, but don't you worry, of course there were dinosaur bones too. Remember the Mosasaurus from Jurassic World? Well, yeah, they found evidence of that old beast floating around. A human skull. Yep, back in 1985, researchers came across a human head, which was thought to have been from the early 1820s, making it one of, if not the first landing in Antarctica. We say landing because it supposedly belonged to an indigenous woman from southern Chile and was found right about here. Mountains under the ice. We're well aware of the immense amount of ice that covers Antarctica these days, right? The continent boasts around 90% of the planet's freshwater ice, with 99% of the landmass being made up from 2 enormous 3-mile thick sheets of the stuff, all up crossing roughly 5.4 million square miles. That's like the contiguous United States, 3,119,000, sorry Hawaii and Alaska, not this time, plus Argentina, 1,100,000, Kazakhstan, 1 million, and France, 210,026, all rolled into one. There's actually loads more to find, including a mountain range. But we're not talking about the Transantarctic Mountains or Mount Erebus. We're talking about the Gamburtsev mountain range, which is, ready for it, sneakily hidden away underneath the ice. Scientists actually discovered it back in 1958 when suddenly found themselves on thin ice within an area where it was supposed to be miles thick. The peaks below were discovered to be 9,000 feet high and close to 750 miles in width. You know what else is hiding behind that intimidating Antarctic ice wall? A volcano that spurts of crystals whenever it darn well feels like it. That's right, Mount Erebus, which is the second highest volcano in Antarctica, and the southernmost active volcano on Earth, actually shoots out crystals from its central vent, and has been doing so since way back in the 1970s. These little crystals are called anorthoclase and look like this, but they're not the only magic happening at this mysterious mountain. American geologists have also found tiny crystals of metallic gold in nearby snow, measuring up to 0.02 millimeters, so like teeny tiny. Sadly though, it's not enough to make us stinking rich anytime soon. The mountain only spurts about 80 grams of gold a day, and considering that it covers a huge area with a peak of 3,794 meters, good luck finding those microscopic specks.
I don't know if everybody has heard of Admiral Byrd.
Unless you're an elite scientist or an emperor penguin, exploring the Antarctic is forbidden. Mid-1900s, we knew almost nothing about Antarctica. Then, an American Navy explorer by the name of Admiral Richard Byrd Jr. changed everything. Aside from enormous expanses of ice, endemic wildlife, and wintry conditions he'd never before seen, what else exactly did he find? While it's still shrouded in mystery, many think that Byrd came across an underground civilization called Agartha. Here, check it out.
And he was expecting to see ice, but when he got to a certain point beyond the ice, right, then he could see land. He was seeing water. He saw living creatures. He said he saw what he described as a mammoth. And he believed that he had went into an inner earth or something, right? Because he couldn't fathom why he was seeing what he was seeing when he thought that all he was going to see was ice and more ice with nothing but penguins out there. So there's a lot going on in the world that I feel like is being covered up, being kept from us. They try to convince us that it is for our own good, our own safety, our own peace of mind. They clearly do not care about that, but that's the crock that we're being fed. And above all else, we have decided, right? When I say we, I'm saying like people, right? The people who are there. The scientists there have decided that they were going to take chunks of the ice and bring it back to the labs and thaw it out. And can you imagine what it is that they found when they thawed out that ice?
Completely isolated from the rest of the world for tens of thousands of years could lurk deadly killers just waiting to be unleashed. In a quest to understand the potential threat, science has now discovered some of these ancient threats, and some were completely unknown to science until now. High up in the Tibetan mountains, scientists have labored to drill into some of the oldest and most pristine ice on Earth for years, and in doing so, brought back ice core samples that date back thousands and thousands of years. Two of these samples predate the earliest known human civilization by a whopping 11,000 years. Trapped within the ice lurks a sampling of the microscopic world present at the time the ice was formed. While the total biomass of trapped microbial life is vanishingly small, far less than seawater, scientists have refined techniques to identify what life exists within that ancient ice. What they've discovered has been nothing short of revolutionary for science. The two samples were collected in 1992 and 2015, And while the ice was untouched for thousands of years, upon being removed, the exterior was immediately contaminated with modern microbial life. For years, these icy cores were kept in frozen storage, the contents within kept pristine thanks to their icy prison. Recently, scientists discovered a way to at last melt the cores while eliminating any chance of modern contamination, allowing researchers to peer into the microbial world of prehistory. And when scientists peered into their microscopes, they found a veritable Ice Age microbial Jurassic Park waiting for them. Investigating the two ice cores, scientists found 33 different groups of viruses with hundreds of individual members of each. Of these groups of viruses, though, the greatest discovery was the fact that a whopping 28 of them were completely unknown to scientists until now. Forebodingly, in a follow-up interview, one researcher stated that humanity is far from having sampled even the majority of estimated virus groups still alive in frozen ice around the world today, meaning there are more viruses lurking, waiting for their chance to be free of their icy prison than we ever dreamt of. It has even been theorized that viruses are nothing more than the descendants of malfunctioning nanomachines made by aliens and dispersed into the universe billions of years ago. The theory makes some sense, as a specific type of nanomachine known as a von Neumann probe would be able to visit every star system in the galaxy in just a few tens of thousands of years, compared to the millions or more it would take using traditional ships full of aliens. That's because the von Neumann probe has a unique ability that is eerily similar to that of a virus. It's able to use matter it encounters to create a copy of itself, and it does so exponentially. One makes a perfect copy, then those two make 2 copies, then the 4 make now another 4 copies, and so on and so on. And in a very short amount of time, you could have millions of these probes being sent to every corner of the galaxy. Perhaps then viruses are a form of an alien von Neumann probe, but not one designed to explore the galaxy, but rather to create life. Again, the theory does make some sort of sense, as scientists are still unable to explain how the basic building blocks of life came together to actually start life here on Earth. And yet it's known that at the very first moment life was possible on Earth, it sprung into existence. That is a rather astonishing coincidence. It could be that ancient alien viruses were programmed to put those basic building blocks together. If you think this is an outlandish supposition, then you should know that modern gene editing techniques use hijacked viruses to modify DNA directly. And scientists were shocked when a 30,000-year-old virus discovered in Siberia not only awoke, but began infecting healthy modern cells. This megavirus, so named because it's many times the size of what scientists thought was the biggest virus, infects amoebas. Once a victim has been found, the virus does much as any other virus, uses the amoeba to create more of its own kind, eventually destroying the amoeba. While this particular virus is incapable of infecting humans, the realization that a 30,000-year-old virus could be woken up and infect modern life was a sobering one for scientists.
Little organisms, viruses, things that make us ill. There's viruses that we know about that we thought had been extinct, like the bubonic plague, anthrax, smallpox, right? And I find it a little funny that, you know, there was a case in America way after the bubonic plague had already came and gone. The bubonic plague sprouted out there in Cali. A smallpox spout not long ago. And then we have whatever COVID is, right? COVID come out and about. I believe that it is some type of flu. Like, some people are like, oh, well, that's not real. Well, I can say I did get sick with it. It didn't kill me, but it did run me down for 2 weeks, especially that second week. I was run down and could not wake up for nothing. It just made me really tired. It's like a really intense cold and flu. So you have to wonder about where did that come from.
In December 2016, a remote community in Siberia experienced a mysterious outbreak. 90 people were hospitalized and a 12-year-old boy died. Soon, Russian officials identified what had killed him: the deadly infectious disease anthrax. The outbreak had started among reindeer. To contain the spread, they burned over 2,000 reindeer carcasses. The strange thing was, there hadn't been an anthrax outbreak in the area for more than 70 years. So, to figure out where it came from, scientists started looking underground. In the coldest parts of the world, there's a layer of the Earth that stays frozen all year. Every summer, the soil above it thaws, but this deeper layer stays hard as rock. This is permafrost. Most permafrost is here, in the northern hemisphere around the Arctic. And because it never thaws, permafrost acts kind of like the freezer in your kitchen. When plants and animals here die, they don't actually decompose. Instead, they become preserved in the frozen earth like a time capsule. Scientists think that the anthrax outbreak came from a long-dead reindeer carcass that thawed out along with the permafrost. Anthrax spores from the carcass would have spread across the area and infected reindeer grazing nearby. Scientists worry that as permafrost melts, it could unearth all sorts of diseases we thought we had under control.
We already know how the scientists today, their curiosity gets the best of them. As y'all know, the saying is, the curiosity killed the cat. And they seem to take it so far to levels of where they like to play God, right? Okay, well, now we have these new bacteria, these new viruses and little organisms, and now we're gonna multiply them. Why are you doing that? Right? We have to ask that of ourselves. You have to understand that nothing that your government does for you is for your benefit. It is all for their benefit. If you happen to reap the benefit in that process, well, then you got lucky. But the time that it's not, where their benefit is not your benefit, they come first. Let's not forget where we got these scientists, right? We took the Nazi scientists, Hitler's scientists, who were advanced. Let's just be real. Like, everything that they were doing was beyond our time, beyond what we were doing back then when Hitler was alive. That's what I mean by our time. And we brought them. Some went to the CIA. Some became the scientists here that we trust their word on. These are people who were putting things like chlorine in the water, fluoride in the water, to make people be docile and more controllable. Things that are in our tap water, we know it to be true. It's not, when people say conspiracies and conspiracy theories, all a conspiracy theory is that there's a theory that people are conspiring against people. We know it to be fact with the things that I'm speaking on right now. That there is fluoride in the water. There is chlorine in the water. There's a lot of things in the water. There's metals in your tap water. And again, none of this is me making it up. This isn't me trying to scare y'all. This is the facts. So you have to ask yourself, why would those same people be so interested in viruses and illnesses that they're bringing back in the ice? Because everything is like frozen in time there. Anything in the ice is frozen in time. Some of those organisms and things evolved to where they weren't gonna die. They just kind of lay dormant. It's like an alligator. If you get an alligator out there in the water and it freezes, well, they know that they just peek their nose above the water line so that they can breathe. And they don't die. When the water thaws out again, they're back moving. It's something like that. Everybody needs to start looking into things a little deeper. Have an open mind. A lot of these things that just sound way so unbelievable, your mind has been programmed to find these things unbelievable. For you to hear them and then dismiss them as science fiction. A lot of the things that we thought wasn't possible back in the 90s is possible now. They have created artificial wombs, right? There's labs with hundreds of artificial wombs for them to recreate and clone, basically, let's just call it clone children in a lab-grown children. Disney was doing it. Look it up if you don't believe me. I'm not making this stuff up. Disney has admitted that there was children grew in their labs, which makes you think about all the kids who pop up on Disney Channel, right? Nothing is impossible. Nothing. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe that the world is only small and minuscule. You also have to understand that your mind can't even begin to wrap around everything happening in day to day, everything that makes this world what it is. There's people who invest time and lots of money into making our reality appear a way to us. Because there's only one real reality, right? There is truth, and then there is the truth that's presented. There is a reality, and then there is a reality presented. There's people who go through so much trouble, time, and money to make you believe that things are unbelievable. And you have to ask yourself why. I always say that. Like, nobody asks why. Think about it. I believe that the firmament is real. I believe that we are inside of it. I believe the sun is inside of it. I believe the moon is inside of it. I believe that our surface that we live on is for the most part flat. I mean, I personally haven't been up there in the sky, but if I had to think about it logically and look at what I'm seeing when rockets and cameras are being sent up into space, because I don't believe that space is what we're told that it is. I believe that there's water above us. That's why when you go outside in the daytime, you look up and it's blue. At nighttime, it's black. When you go out and you look at the ocean, in the daytime, it's blue. Nighttime, it's black. As above, so below. I know that that's kind of been twisted and put into some culty kind of situation. But as far as the water goes, I believe it to be 100% true. NASA, fun fact, NASA started out with exploring the ocean and then wound up exploring space up in the sky. I mean, how did they make that leap? What was it that they found in the ocean that took them from the bottom to the top? Just think about it. You ain't got to take my word for it. Go out and look at it. Go research it. Find out for yourself. And then get back to me. Come to me with facts. Don't be like, oh, I'm crazy. Oh, I'm just regurgitating what I'm hearing online. To an extent, we're all regurgitating what we're hearing. It's just you having to decipher through the BS and what's real. Because again, there's people who make it their sole mission in life. That's their job. They are solely put in place to deceive you, to manipulate your mind, to manipulate the way that you take in information. And you have to be above that. I don't care what you call me. You can call me crazy. You can call me a conspiracy theorist. That's fine. You know, everybody's allowed to have an opinion. But that's what I say. I say that there's plenty of proof for me to know that there is a firmament. There's more than one. But I mean, the main one is the one that's above us, right? That's the argument. I believe that there's a firmament above us. I believe that there's firmaments under the ocean. I believe that there's firmaments all over this place, and each one is like basically a biodome of its own. Some places, some were meant to go, and some places, some weren't. But let me know how you feel, what you think about it. If you got anything, like any links to support what I'm telling you, or anything to combat what I'm telling you, go ahead and post it down in the comments. That's fine. I can take it. I can have debates with people. I'm a big girl. I'm grown. And I can have conversations. I also feel like a lot of people that I know, I won't say a lot, but some of the people that I know have with time became open-minded to these things, because there was a time when even my parents and things were looking at me like I was nuts. Like I didn't know what I was talking about. And then over time, some of those things became true. They became obvious to other people as well. Like I said, this is stuff that's been interesting me for years. Like I'll probably end up coming back with some other things, because again, like our topics are about things that are beyond us. So I mean, it gives us kind of like a wide spread of topics that we could talk about. I don't see why I can't just get on here time to time and discuss conspiracy theories or whatever it is that you want to throw the label on it as. Thank you very much for tuning in. Go and do your own research. Don't take my word for it for what you've seen today or heard today. Go on to the internet while it's still available before we ain't allowed to use it. Who knows? This is a crazy world out there today. But while you still got the option of going out and informing yourself, self-educating, take advantage of it, because you never know when you might need it. Again, it's your girl Drift Nasty. Thank you so much for coming back and joining me on the It's Beyond Me podcast, and look forward to seeing y'all soon.